prosecution or the prosecutor's client. So he might be harmless, right? Linda's just hoping against hope to get him on the stand for cross-examination away from Sean, away from Jackson, so she could finally crack his stuff. Well, but unfortunately for the prosecution, Jack never called Robert to testify.
कैसा ही है। तो तेरे को सेम रहेगा क्योंकि दोनों प्रॉपर्टी बराबर है।
All right. Get started. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good? Yeah? Hey, Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Zoom, how's everyone doing out in Zoom? We got Christina, Ava. Everybody okay? Yes, no. There you go. Yeah. Ava. Ava.
Yeah, bro.
All right, just checking on you. Okay. Everybody good? No questions? Happy Valentine's Day. You guys celebrate Valentine's Day in the country?
Yeah.
Huh? Huh?
Yeah,
Huh.
really different.
A little different, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
mainly chocolate
Yeah,
and. Yeah.
okay. Oh. Just asking.
Mine all in a book, oil,
Chocolates, all that, flowers and all that stuff, and
roses.
the roses.
In India, they have different scenario.
Okay.
So India, they start from 7. 7th goes rose day, 8th goes hug day, 9 is a chocolate day, something like that. And
Oh, it's for the whole month?
like whole week.
Or the whole week? Whole week?
So on 7th you give rose, on 8th you just give hug,
Yeah.
on
Okay.
10th you just promise something, or propose something.
Or propose something. Propose like friendly.
13 is a kiss day, 14 is a well. Like starts
14.
from rose and
What's 14?
14 is a well.
Game's over. 14.
15 is a slap day.
Basically slap day. Okay, all right.
Where are you from? Where are you from?
India.
Oh.
Different. Okay, I was curious. All right, well, hopefully everybody's enjoying their Valentine's Day. I know it's a little chilly outside, so,
Yeah.
and it's late. Nobody wants to go out on a Tuesday. Exactly, but, if you got somebody, make sure you let them know. You love them and you care about them, whoever it is, your mother, your sister, your friend or the guy. It's a day of love, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know why, it's expensive.
That's correct.
All right, so this week we're gonna talk about employee rights and responsibility. Well, week 7, all right, so one more week after this and then we're all done, okay? Let me say something about the drafts. So the drafts look good for the most part. When it comes down to the similarity score, the plagiarism, the Turnitin score, try to get that as low as you can, all right? Typically, if you have anything over 13, 14%, that kind of highlights or shows that maybe there's too much copying and pasting and too much, not enough paraphrasing. But I go in and I figured out that depending on how you have it filtered and screened out, it'll pick up all kind of words that aren't necessarily plagiarism. All right, so if you can, just try to bring it down as much as you can below 15%. But I have checked and you guys are good. Some of you guys are 20%, but I think for the most part, just like is, there's certain things that, words that you're using over and over again that are popping up as, coming from someplace else. But for the most part, it's, you guys are pretty good. I was happy with the drafts, okay? So, you got a decent score. Most everybody that turned it in got at least a, 47, somewhere around 47 to 50. 50 is the max.
You gave 47 to 50?
47 out of 50.
Like 47 was the lowest you gave?
No, 47 is not the lowest I did. No, 47 is not the lowest I did. But if you turned it in and it was presentable and looked good, yeah, you got full credit. And just make some notes about, hey, try this, try that, or make sure you try to get the score down. But you should be, what I said.
Where can I see that? The comments.
I'm not sure how it looks on your side, on your end. But you should be able to click on the assignment submission, and it should take you to turn it in. You should be able to see the comments. Let me see. Because it's just in one comment box, so. Okay, good one. Mhm. Yeah. Is that true? Okay, let me see what I put. You got.
Yes, so that.
Yeah, yours is too high. Yeah. And it's, we'll talk offline, but I know, I understand what you're trying to do, but it was just, yeah, that's not what I wanted. But I know you're gonna turn in a good project, and for that particular assignment, we'll talk, or do a break if you want. Okay? All right. All right, cool. So employee rights and responsibilities, all right, so within the organization, right? As I said before, it's not a one-way street, okay? Um, employers have a right and obligation to the employees to make sure that, they're treated fairly in the workplace, all right? There are rights, there's statutory rights and there's responsibilities, right? Rights are just those things you're kind of innately born with, all right? Just the right to, free speech, the right to live, the right to, pursue happiness, okay? And you have the statutory rights that are more, governed by law, right? Rules and stuff made by society, more social construct, thought of mine, right? When we talking about collective bargaining, or we're talking about, EEO, workplace safety, right? There's certain statutory rights that are designated by law that the employer has to make sure that, you'll get to go, okay? So that's an employer responsibility for the employee right, okay? And then again, responsibility, what is it that, I'm looking for you to do? What is it that I'm expecting as your task and your duties as you come to work every day, all right? That's what I'm paying you for, sort of, right? So you have all these employee rights and responsibilities, and the employee has to make sure that all these things are in place and that you are protected in the workplace. And because if you don't protect the employee, guess what? They can sue you, right? It's not gonna buy anything else. To sue you, you get a bad reputation. On top of that, being, unsafe, or a company that deals with, unethically, and you will not get people that want to come work with you, right? Because the work environment will be, just not conducive to, people coming and working, feeling like they feel respected, they feel safe, they feel like they're valued, okay? You have your contractual rights, right? Your rights that are based on whatever terms we agree on. Yeah, that's basically what the contractual rights are. Then we sit down and say, hey, you're gonna come to work, 5 days out of the week. I'm gonna give you Saturday and Sunday off. And I expect you to work 40 hours a week, and I expect you to do this and do that. It is laid out in the contract, right? What are the rules and what are the expectations that we have? Not only for you, but for ourselves, but for the workplace, right? For the employee also, the employers, you say, all right? So you have your employment contract, right? That's what you sign typically when you go get a job, right? And you make sure you read your employment contract, well, because there's always a little bit of, fine print in there, and people don't tend to really always check it out fully to understand what their rights or responsibilities are. They so excited about doing the job, just happy working for a certain company, they just sign it. And there's a lot of provisions in there that the company has to make sure that they're protected, okay? The contract is not necessarily about your protection, but it's more about the company's protection. Yes, we have some rights and responsibilities to you, but our main concern is making sure that we don't get in trouble, right? It's one company and 500 employees, okay? So I have to make sure I protect myself, right? The next one you have is the non-compete agreement. And I think I talked about the non-compete agreement probably maybe 2 weeks ago. And saying that if you work for a company, usually when you get hired on, you will sign a non-compete, okay? And basically that says, if you get fired from here, if we let you go, you cannot go work for somebody else in the same industry for a certain period of time, okay? You cannot, open up your own business in the same industry for a certain period of time, right? That's really there to protect intellectual property, any training, any specialized, skill set that you, came from the job. That's really what that's there for, to make sure that you don't infringe on the company's market share. Right, because they trained you, they give you all these tools, and then now you're gonna go start your own thing or give it to someone else. And the things that they may have taught you or showed you may very well be industry secrets, right? It may be corporate or organizational knowledge that they, don't want to get out, right? KFC, the secret recipe of how they make the chicken. Okay, I don't know it. I'm sure nobody aside from KFC knows it, right? And I'm talking about at the highest levels, all right? That proprietary information. That stuff is probably very, very well guarded, and if the serious not compete on that, right? Probably 10, 15 years, I'm sure at least. When you cannot work for KFC at the highest levels and then go out and, start your own thing using their recipe, right? It doesn't work that way. So we gotta keep those things in mind, all right? Oops. All right, so you got within the employment contract, you also have non-piracy agreements and non-solicitation of current employees, all right? So non-piracy agreements, anybody want to shed some light on that? What's a non-piracy agreement?
Piracy is to copy.
Probably, right? So you basically sign an agreement saying, I will not copy anything that I've seen or heard or known to be valuable information from the company and then try to sell it. Okay? Now, does this happen on a regular basis? Absolutely. Okay, it happens all the time. Piracy is a billion-dollar, trillion-dollar market. Right? You get everything from knockoff purses to, knockoff software to knockoff technology, right? And other countries steal from each other, right? So these agreements are put in place so that we as average people cannot just go out and really, create stuff, right? We can't do that. So Louis Vuitton specifically had a big issue with this a couple of years back, where if they caught you pirating their stuff, it was pretty bad. They would push you or prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Okay, because Louis Vuitton is a high-end brand, right? But if you go to any major city, you go out on the streets, they're selling knockoff bags, right? Okay, so Louis Vuitton is a lot of money, right? Because people are passing these things off as real. We all know they're not, but people will buy them anyway because they look close enough. And unless you really know what a Louis Vuitton bag is supposed to look like, and unless you are well versed in the stitching and the color inside and all this other stuff, right? That make it very, very specific. No one will be able to tell that it's not a real bag, right? And so that devalues the brand, that devalues the company, and the money. There's a lot of reputation issues, right? So there's a lot of things that go into the non-piracy agreement. And then non-solicitation of current employees. What's that we're talking about? What's non-solicitation of employees, of current employees, excuse me? Anybody? What do you think it is? You have some idea.
You cannot even you cannot ask the current employees what they are doing in the business.
Come on in. No problem. No, that's not it. Anybody else? Non-solicitation of current employees. No? Okay. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the non-piracy agreements, non-compete, right? So you cannot go to another employee and say, hey, I'm leaving, come with me, let's start our own business. Right? Hey, I know you work over here, but we can do our own thing. Okay, or I'm gonna start, this other company over here, I can really use you, okay? Can't do that. Poaching, basically, right? Can't poach your colleagues, you can't poach employees from the current organization, right? So they make sure that you keep those things in mind as far as the things that you're signing, right? And you usually sign all this stuff at the beginning, the very front, end of your orientation, or if they don't necessarily you sign it at the beginning, which they don't do, sometimes they'll have you sign it. So if you're leaving the organization, they'll have you sign certain things, right? Because when you get to the company, you're not necessarily, you may not be doing anything that is proprietary, right? You may be working in admin, you may be working in IT, but doing nothing special, right? You're not getting to any corporate secrets or anything like that, so it really doesn't matter, right? When you get ready to leave the organization, right, especially if you leave under bad terms, circumstances, then it will definitely make you sign all that stuff, okay? Especially the higher you go up, the more likely you are to sign a non-compete, non-solicitation, and non-partisan, okay?
Yeah.
And yet, it's,
I signed one of that, like, organizations,
you know,
they sometimes, from the middle, they sometimes.
Mhm. you're up to sign, right? Yeah, because I don't want you going out and being a competition now. That's what I'm really worried about. I don't need any more competition. I have plenty of competition, so I don't want somebody that I taught, not going out into the world and creating their own company, and then they grow, and now they're my competitor and taking my market share, and when they store it for me. So you gotta be careful of that. All right, when it comes down to contractual rights, intellectual property is another thing that companies are worried about, all right? Again, going back to KFC and the secret, spices and blends, whatever, however they fry the chicken, right? That's somewhat intellectual property, okay? It's not necessarily anything tangible per se, but as I said, trade secrets, right? Those things that make us unique, okay? How is it that, they design Lamborghinis or Ferraris, or specifically, how does Apple, put together its hardware or something like that, right? Whatever the case may be, there's a lot more intellectual property rights and actual property protections, when we're talking about artistic things, right? Creative things that, a special compound, for instance, right? A special type of drug, right? All intellectual property, right? And there are rules, right, as far as pharmaceuticals go, as to when someone can, start producing a drug, right? How long, does anybody know how long a drug is protected for one company until another company can start making it? No? Anybody? Huh?
Maybe 10.
10? Well, anybody else? No? Okay, so it depends on for the most part, about 50 years. I think 50 years, I think it's 50 years. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'll double check, but I think it's 50 years, right? So basically for 50 years, double check that. I know some things are 50 years, but I'm not sure. It might be 10, but I think it's 50. But either way, during that time frame, no one else can make the drug. Okay? And so that's why some drugs are more expensive than others. Okay? Or when a new drug comes out, it's so expensive, but you hear it by a certain name, right? Like Ozempic or, Viagra, whatever the case may be, right? COVID-19, that's right. No one else can make it except for Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly, certain companies, right? Who? Yeah, exactly, right? But after the time elapses, the 10 years or 50 years, how many days it is, then companies could start making generics. I think it's 20 years? Okay, 20 years. I didn't think it's that long. 50 years is for government documents or something like that. Right? So 20 years. So after 20 years, then other people come in and start making generics, right? And this is where you get, when you go to the pharmacy, they'll ask you, you want the brand or you want the generic? Okay, same thing. Okay, when you go into Walgreens, you're looking for, let's just say Cedric, or for, what's the other thing people take, for allergies? Pink pill. The pink pill, basically it's an antihistamine, right? There's a thing for it, specifically, I can't remember right now. But I just stick with Excedrin or Tylenol, for instance. Okay, Tylenol is what? It's just, huh?
What is that? The Walmart you buy.
Yeah, right. If you look at the ingredients, Tylenol compared to the Walmart brand or the Costco brand or the CVS or Walgreens brand, same thing. Okay, same thing. So You wanna buy the brand, you can, but the generic is the same thing. It might be one degree, but if one ingredient is different, but it's not the active ingredient. Okay, so if you read a ingredients list, it goes by amount, most active amount or biggest amount, right? So the first thing listed is the primary makeup of that particular drug, right? So if it says, hydrochloric, whatever, something, that makes up the majority of the drug. They don't say water, they don't say something else, they say something. As you get towards the end of that list, that is probably the most, that drug, whatever that is, component, is the smallest amount in there, right? The first active ingredient, the first thing that's listed is active ingredient, and that's usually what's, the most important part. Right, so they try to make sure to protect that, okay, so keep that, those trade secrets, safe, right? Rights to have employees bring business opportunity to employer first before pursuing them elsewhere, right? So this is important because if I tell my employees, like some places, let's just say you work for Microsoft or Google, okay? Now, those places are very, creative and trying to really think out the box and those that, right? We want you to come to us with your ideas. As crazy they may sound, right? That kind of industry is like, we want to hear what you have to say as an employee, right? Because that's how we get new innovations. That's how we get new things, right? And so why would I not want you to bring that to me first as your employer, instead of you taking it to, I don't know, Google, Tesla, someplace else? No, bring it here first, right? This is your home. You come talk to us first, okay? And that's part of the intellectual property protections also, right? You have not necessarily an obligation, but kind of the company should have first opportunity to talk to you about what it is that you're pitching, okay? Because more than likely, if it's a good idea, they're gonna throw money behind it, okay? And you're gonna get money from it, okay? Because remember that it's not who makes the most money. If you have an idea and you pitch it to the company, all right, and the company says, great, we're gonna do it, right? Who makes the most money, you or the company?
Company,
The company, why?
because basically they're gonna make and they're gonna sell, like, they know how to target the audience.
Okay, yeah, but why are they making more money than you? It's your idea, right?
Yeah, but it's my idea, but they have the resources, they have other resources.
Okay.
I don't have things supplied.
Exactly, right? No resources, no supplies, right? So you can use my lab, you're gonna use my instruments, my time, my lights, my electricity, my other scientists, right? So that's why the inventor never really made that much money, right? Unless they fund it themselves, okay? But in most situations, most people cannot fund really big research projects, right? And so they have sponsorship. For the sponsors, they are in it because they know that they're going to make the most money from distribution, not from the manufacturing of it, per se, the distribution and the selling of the product, right? And they'll give you a royalty check. They'll give you some, whatever it is you guys work out, right? But you're gonna get something at the end of the day, right? And most people, like, anybody familiar with Gatorade, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, anybody know what Gatorade was made or invented? No, Gatorade was invented at the University of Florida, in Gainesville, Florida, which has a lot of alligators. University of Florida, the Gators is the mascot, right? That's where Gatorade came from.
Oh,
Yeah, and the football team, the coach, realized that the players were getting dehydrated. Yeah, everybody's been to Florida before?
I have.
No?
I have lived there.
It's very hot, right?
But winters are also good.
Winters aren't bad, but it's typically hot. When it's hot, it's hot,
Yeah.
all right? And so the players were dehydrating, as athletes do. And the doctor, the scientist, realized like, oh, you know what, I could make something that could help the players, stay hydrated, because he understood the body, understood electrolytes and that kind of thing. That's what he did. He made a solution and tested it out on the players, and the coach saw an improvement in the players and their stamina, their durability, the ability to not cramp up and to play longer. And it's like, oh, okay, this is something that's viable. And so the school basically started producing Gatorade, and then they sold it to Pepsi. Okay, they sold the rights to Pepsi as far as let Pepsi, you go ahead and produce it, you distribute it, but you pay us, right? Because this is our doctor that made it, right? He made it with our resources. Now the doctor, he gets a decent amount. I think on average, I think he got like $1 million or $2 million check a month or something like that. So he does all right. Yeah, he's not bad, right? But how much money does Pepsi make off Gatorade? A whole lot, right? A whole lot. Okay, so you can see the importance of protecting your intellectual property and making sure that nobody can really get at it, and you want to make sure that you have first right of refusal when it comes to ideas that your employees have. Okay. Common law copyright for works and other common documents prepared by employees for their employers. Again, anything that you make, create, design using company resources, even if you're at home, is the company. Okay, it's protected by intellectual property law. You can't just go out and pitch it and try to sell to somebody else, right? Now, if you're at home and you're on your own computer, that's something different. Yeah. But if you're in the workplace and using their resources, or even use any resources that are provided to you by the company in the creation of this particular product, good, or service, then the company has a right to it. Okay. Now they may not have total rights to it depending on what resource you use, right? But for the most part, like I said, most people don't have labs in their homes, right? Not commercial labs, not laboratories that you would need to do real research that would be taken seriously. Okay, there's a certain protocol when it comes to research, and not only just the scientific method, but just the cleanliness, hygiene aspect of it, right? Just making sure that it's sanitized and also the nonsense, it's different ball game, okay? All right, so we have implied contracts, all right? So implied contracts are basically contracts that don't have any straight up written language to it, sort of, okay? They're implied, right? So if I say, hey, I'm gonna give you a job, your hours are from 9 to 5, the implication is that you have to come into the office, right? I don't have to put that in the contract. I don't have to say, you must come to the office. You got to come to work, right? Okay? I don't have to put that, I will put in the contract that I'm gonna pay you, but at the same time, the understanding is I will be paid. The understanding is you will work, right? You will do certain tasks or certain functions for me, and I will reward you or compensate you based on that work, okay? The number of times that you come in, agreed upon in the contract, right? So you have a lot of implied things that aren't necessarily written in black and white, but it's to be understood, right? That are totally legal and can be upheld in court, okay? And you have to keep in mind that that really is the essence of it, right? You have to be able to show proof and uphold things in court, okay? Implied or implications can be held up in court, okay? If there's a reasonable expectation of something, then that's gonna be recognized in court. That can be used against you or for you, all right? But you have to understand the implications to the contract, even though it's not written formally, right? It shouldn't be any, discrimination, right? Even though it's written in the contract, say we practice, non-discriminatory, hiring and all this stuff. It's there, but at the same time, there's still like an assumption, right, that I'm gonna be treated fairly. Okay, and so you have to think about those things. All right. All right. So some of the things that affect the employment relationship, okay, employment at will, wrongful and constructive discharge, just cause, due process, organizational justice, right? These are all things that, you run into in the workplace, or the organization has decided to kind of follow those guidelines and those rules, okay? So, first one, employment at will, all right? Anybody familiar with that term? Employment at will? No? Okay, so, basically, employment at will says that me as an organization, I can fire, hire, retain, whatever, an individual at my discretion, okay? Unless it's a contract, unless it's some statutory law, unless there's some other, some other law that prohibits me from doing so, I can fire you and get rid of you when I feel like it, okay? But you can, as the employee, leave whenever you feel like it also, okay? You get 2 weeks notice, as long as no contractual obligations, then you're good to go, okay? You can do as you will, all right? So employee at will is not in every state. California is an employee at will state, and majority of states are employee at will, just because it gives the employer more flexibility, right? In trying to, make sure that they have the right staff, the right workforce, they have the right work balance, as compared to their inventory of people. You wanna, it's a quick way to, affect change, especially from our costs and payroll and human resources, that kind of thing, right? And so it's good, and it's also good for the employee, because if you decide that the job's not for you, the environment is not really necessarily great, or you find another job, and you need to leave immediately, you can, right? You put in your 2 week notice, and then you're gone, right? Most times they'll cut you right there, let you go, no questions asked. Thank you for your service, here you go, adios amigos, okay? So you have to be patient with that, or understand that, okay? As I said, public policy exceptions, implied contract exceptions, good faith and fair dealing exception, and statutory exceptions, right? And so, I think all of that kind of self-explanatory. Maybe the good faith and fair dealing exception is maybe not, fully understandable, but let's just say, for example, Elon Musk bought Twitter, right? And everybody watched that from the beginning to the end, from when he said he was gonna buy, or when he actually bought it. No? Okay. So when he actually said, when he was getting ready to buy it, he was serious, and then somewhere along the line, he changed his mind. Okay, he didn't wanna buy Twitter anymore. So then he had to go to court. So he went to court, and the court said, nah, buddy, you gotta pay up. You gotta give him the $44 billion you said you buy Twitter for, right? And the reason is because they had a good faith and fair dealing exception. Okay, that's one of the reasons. Because Twitter went into this agreement saying, hey, we're gonna deal with you fairly and honestly. We're giving you the price, you've agreed to the price, right? So it's kind of like an informal gentleman's handshake. We have the prior letter of intent signed, right? Once that's done, now we're dealing in good faith, okay? Because I'm believing what you're saying, that you're gonna hold up your end of the bargain, and you'll believe what I'm saying, that I'm gonna hold up my end of the bargain, right? And because I'm gonna make decisions based off of that, I have to be able to rely on what you're saying is truth and factual, okay? That's why he ended up having to pay the $44 billion, right? Because Twitter made decisions based on him purchasing the organization, okay? And so if he had decided, if he had got out of buying the organization, Twitter probably would be, in a little bit of trouble, right? Because Twitter was losing money, still losing money, right? But people love Twitter, okay? But Twitter loses money, right? That's why he had this big, cut in payroll, cutting people, fired a lot of the high-end executives, the VPs here, presidents there, got rid of a lot of them, okay? He's making Twitter, if you don't know, Twitter's not gonna be soon enough, you have to pay for Twitter. Okay, you have to pay for it soon enough, right? You have different levels of Twitter. He's trying to create a price plan, right? Price structure. They can make money, right? Because how does Twitter revenue generate revenue? How do they generate? How does Twitter make money? Anybody know?
This one, that's one.
That's it, right? Wasting time. That's how TV broadcasters make money, or TV stations make money. Advertising, marketing dollars.
Tweets were affecting the stock market of US.
That's right.
And so Twitter was telling Elon Musk, so if you tweet like this, and if it affects the stock market of US, so we will
Right.
ban you.
Yeah,
So it
which,
was a
right.
part of reputation status for him. So
Absolutely.
he thought that if they ban me, it will affect Tesla.
right. Which
So I try to purchase it.
purchased the whole thing, right? And that really was, his intent. That was what motivated him, right? That's a good point. Yeah. That's really what pushed him to buy Twitter, because he was saying stuff on Twitter and Facebook and wherever else that affected the market, right? It just, Elon Musk said this about, XRP or Ethereum
And Dodge.
and Dogecoin, right? Shot to the top.
Yeah.
Bitcoin sucked, shot Bitcoin down. We're gonna do this, shot it up. So he had a lot of impact on the market. And so Twitter was going to ban him from posting certain things, because like you're affecting the market with your comments, which aren't necessarily true. And you can't hold him accountable for things that he says on Twitter, right? He just got done winning his court case last week for saying that he was going to take Tesla private. And a lot of people believed him and made decisions based off of that. And then he didn't go through with it, and then he sued him,
Oh,
right? They
so
sued
he's
him.
taking it to private now?
No, he was.
He
He was
was.
thinking about it.
Oh,
Right? He was thinking about it. He got the funding secured. He did everything, but then maybe, he thought about it and said, yeah, I don't want to do it, right? But they tried to sue him, individual investors, retailers, they got together, they got a lawyer, they put a class action lawsuit against him. But he won the case, right? Because Twitter is not a formal environment. Twitter's not a non-binding agreement. There's no contract between Elon Musk and Twitter and the people that use Twitter. There just isn't. He can say whatever he wants to on Twitter, right? Because I have a thought or an idea about what I want to do, and I put it out there. Yes, do I know I have a lot of influence? Yes. But at the same time, you can't take everything I say seriously, right? That means that if I say, hey, I don't feel good, that doesn't mean I'm gonna die, right? It means I don't feel good, right? And I can put out Twitter if I want, right? And so that is an important aspect as to why, good faith in dealing is important for companies, because now if we are, doing a business transaction, your word means something, right? So, your earnest money means something, right? Your letter of intent means something, right? Because I make decisions based off of that. Okay. All right, all right. So you got a couple of types of different discharges, okay? You got wrongful discharge and constructive discharge, all right? Wrongful discharge is when someone gets fired, basically, for cause, okay? For something that they didn't do, per se, okay? Not for cause, something they didn't do, right? So I fire you because I don't like your religion. I don't like, your sexual orientation. I don't like your face. I don't, whatever the case may be, okay? That's a wrongful discharge. You can't go around firing people just because of some personal agenda, okay? The things that you fire people for should be legal and not, based on personal bias or anything like that, okay? Constructive discharge is kind of along the same lines, but maybe even worse, okay? Constructive discharge basically said, you create an environment, right? I don't really, I'm not firing you, right? But when you come to work every day, it's gonna be hell, right? And you're gonna leave on your own, right? Because I create such a scenario for you that is unbearable, right? And this is what happened a lot of times early on in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, in the 80s and 90s, to minorities, okay? create an environment so bad that, hey, I followed the law, I hired these guys, I hired this woman, all right? But you make it so bad that they just quit. You say, well, I didn't fire them, they quit. Well, why did they quit? Well, I don't know. Well, maybe it's because they were getting harassed every day. Maybe it's because you came and you were touching her every day. Maybe it's because, she couldn't have a moment of peace. Maybe because you create this environment, right? This hostile work environment that made her leave, right? So it's not necessarily something they do. It's a subtle way of getting rid of somebody, right? You create a situation to where it's unbearable and they leave on their own volition, right? And you say, what was it me? They left by themselves. I hired them. I didn't fire them. So, right? So when you have this kind of, constructive discharge, right? What's the difference between that and me firing that same person, right? If I fire that person as compared to them leaving and because I created a constructive discharge environment, what's the difference? Anybody know?
Like, if I fire,
If someone comes in my company, right, and I fire them, right, it's one thing. As compared to, you know what, I'm not gonna fire them, I'm just gonna make it miserable for them, so they'll leave on their own, right? What's the difference between the two?
So, first one is that, so you will discriminate him and you will remove him that I don't like you.
Okay.
And in the second one, yeah, you will create such condition that will be unsuitable for him. So you will create a situation, so he will not be there at your place. It
Right,
will be unsuitable for him, so he will say by himself
okay.
that I am not okay with you and he will leave the place. Because you created such condition for you.
But why would you one over the other?
so like, you don't, like, internally, you don't want this person to be here, but you're not gonna do those things. You're gonna do those things, not like the way you want to do, but you're gonna do it another
In
way.
the first one, you will say on his face that you don't like him and you're removing him. But in the second one, you will create such a situation that you will be good, that I'm good, but the situation you created will not be suitable for that person and he will go away.
Okay.
Like, you want to tell this person, I don't like you.
Mm.
You're putting those things to him, like he come to you, like say, like, I want to be, like, in terms of like what, like, you can put him a lot of pressure to work.
Yeah.
No time off. Like, no opinions to the whole,
Yeah.
I have to understand this. So the major difference here, the process of firing is, to me, is very different from completing discharge in the sense that you want to fire someone, I've been there before. Call the guy, tell the person, give the person the reasons why this has to happen. If the person leaves with clear mind, okay, they don't want necessarily, maybe because the company is going through some hard time, funds are not coming in.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
So the guy leaves and feels good, moves on, just move on. But it is constructive. It's affecting the person's emotions. Right? You are damaging the person's self-esteem, and the person will just walk out there and he doesn't even understand. Before the employee or the employee gets himself again, get himself together, takes some time. So there's no empathy.
Okay. All right, Jessica, you got any ideas? No? Here it says, okay. Anybody on Zoom? Got any ideas about what the distinction is between the two? Between the firing and more or less someone leaving voluntarily? No? Okay. So remember this all the time, okay? The bottom line for any company is money. Okay? So in America, I don't know about every other country, in America, I work. If I fire you, guess what I owe you? I owe you severance pay. I owe you pay. I owe you 2 weeks of your next pay period. I owe you severance, some kind of compensation for firing you. If you leave, you quit, I don't owe you anything. That's the difference. Okay?
Same in Nigeria.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. If you get fired, the company has to pay you your vacation time, your last paycheck, any time you had before that, any leave, anything you've accrued, your 401k, you take that all with you. If they fire you, if you leave, you don't get anything. All you get is your 401k. You can roll that over, that's yours, right? But your leave, your, days off, vacation, accrued, yeah, okay? That's why sometimes companies will create a constructive discharge situation because they want the person to leave on their own, because if they fire that person, it's gonna cost them too much money. All right, it's gonna cost too much money. So think about what you guys, the LE was last week with COVID-19 and some of the mistreatment, right, that happened to the employee, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I create an environment so bad that you just leave, right? Right, giving you a mask and all the other PPE, personal protective equipment that goes with the job, right? And saying, hey, oh, you need to take the shot. If you want to work here. Take the COVID vaccine, right? And what if you say, well, I don't believe in vaccine, right? I'm a non-vax or whatever. Well, you gotta go then, okay? That falls under you voluntarily leaving. And there's certain requirements. Now, if you get the vaccine, you come back, say, I got the vaccine, I got my card, here it is, and you say, okay, cool, keep working. Right, but it still creates this environment where you don't want to stay, you want to leave, but they don't want to fire you, but they like to fire you, right? But they don't because it'll cost them more money, okay? They will rather let you go on your own. Now, most companies won't try to create this environment, right? Any company with real sense would not, right? It's not about the company, it boils down to individuals at that point. Okay, it boils down to specific managers and supervisors and leaders and just colleagues who make situations very tenuous and make it hard to work in a certain environment. And so people will leave on their own, right? The manager won't really understand why. Sometimes they're in it, sometimes they're not, right? Now, in this day and age, things are different. But back in the day, right, 50s, 60s, 70s, especially that those time frames, 80s even, there's a lot of discriminatory practice against minorities, and include minorities, include women too. And they created these constructive discharge situations where people just leave because I don't need that in my life. I don't need all that pressure. I don't need this job that bad. Right? So why would I stay? So I just leave. And if you leave, like, okay, we don't owe you anything. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay, keep in mind that the company is always about the bottom line, the money. Right? If there's something going on, it's always attached to money somewhere. Right? It doesn't matter what it is. It's attached to money. Right? So they always say, follow the money. Follow the money, you'll find out what the reason is. Whether it's a personal benefit or if it's an organizational benefit or whatever it is, right? Follow the money. Okay? All right, so if you're trying to, prepare defense against wrongful discharge, right? From the sense of the employer standpoint, okay? Because if I file a wrongful discharge lawsuit against the company, it's up to the company to prove that they did not do that. They did not wrongfully discharge me, okay? So the first thing is put together accurate performance evaluations. Let me see all the person's evals. Let me see the whole time they worked here. The different supervisors they had, if they had different supervisors, it should all be in HR somewhere in the archives and the personnel record, right? I want to see that, right? I want to have a written account of all those things, right? And why would you want to see the performance evaluations? What's so important about the performance evals? What's it gonna, kind of insight is that gonna give you?
Yeah, so actually gonna, I just want to confirm that my examination of this is rational, it's justifiable.
Okay, okay. So don't forget now, this is a defense against wrongful discharge, right? So this is the employer getting ready to defend himself against this accusation of wrongful discharge, right? So when I look at, if me as a lawyer that works for the company, right? When I look at the performance evaluation, what I'm looking for is a, the what?
Let's say loophole.
Not necessarily loophole, but I want to have concrete evidence of whatever deficiency it is the person got fired for, right? What is it, why is it that this person got fired? I actually really see it in the performance evaluations. And because the performance evaluations are a written account of the person's work, right? The person's performance, right? So the person has been a consistent performer, right? And all their superiors have always given high marks, and all of a sudden, they get fired. There's nothing in the performance evaluation to dictate or show me like, what has this person done wrong, right? I got a problem. Okay, because now that's one check against the company. The evaluations don't show a person who's a bad worker, they show a person that's an excellent worker. Matter of fact, this person was rated top 10% of the company, right? So that's gonna hurt us. Okay, from a defense standpoint, from a company, from an organizational standpoint, that's gonna be a problem. We have not, because of the defense, the person who put the suit in, right? They know what's in the evaluation, so they have copies, right? And give that to their lawyers. And then lawyers go, nothing in here, we're good. All right, so, okay, so there's no reason why they would fire you, it's not in here, right? So, boom, get rid of that, okay? Develop documentation justifying dismissal. Again, what do you have written down that shows that this person was a bad worker, right? What justifies your dismissal? I think maybe, was it last week, right? And I talked about the paper portraits, right? And I told you that was a term that we use in the military a lot, okay? And all the paper portraits is that, as I explained it, was that if you come in to work late one day, okay, whatever, I won't annotate. You come in late 2 days, same week, I'll write that down. Even if it's just in a notebook that I keep. I write it down, date stamp it, sign it, boom, official entry, okay? You come in late again, write it down. Months goes by, something else happens, I write it down, okay? Now I'm building a paper portrait. Because I have it in black and white, I annotated every time you had something wrong, I put it down, I documented it, right? And that can be used against you, right? Towards a discharge, okay? Now, is it enough to say that I can fire you? Maybe, depends on what the violations are, right? But at the end of the day, they need to have documentation as to why you dismiss the person, okay? If it's not in the evaluation, maybe it's over here, okay? Because there are different types of documentation, all right? There's documentation that is more formal in the sense of that it's going into your personnel record. Boom, it's an official counseling, official, reprimand or whatever the case may be, or official acknowledgement of some achievement. But there's informal ways for me as your boss to keep account of when you're late, what you're doing, how are you doing on things, right? And it's all admissible. It counts as documentation towards me, for me, if I decide to fire you, or if I decide that I want to promote you, right? But it's not necessarily in your performance evaluation, all right? I can say, hey, the performance evaluations are great, but I also have other documentation that shows the great work that he or she's been doing, right? Here, that's why I want to justify them getting promoted, right? Or that's why I'm justifying them getting fired or getting rid of them, okay? So, the next thing is provide for them a written warning, right? You can't fire someone from the first offense, okay? You have to give them time to remediate. And you have to give them time to remediate. It's the same thing we were talking about learning a couple of weeks ago. And I was telling you, if you come into class and I give you a test, and I just want to see where you're at, and you get a 50 on the test, and then tomorrow You come back again, I don't see anything, I don't teach anything, you leave, you come back again tomorrow, I should expect that you're gonna get the same grade. Right? Because I didn't teach you anything. Unless you went home and did some of your own work, I'm not expecting different grades, right? I cannot be mad at you about getting the same score because I gave you no time or no further information to better yourself. Okay? You have to give people an opportunity to remedy the situation or fix the deficiency. If you don't do that, you got a problem. Okay? How many times is the person late? Once. And you fire them? Yeah. You're gonna lose that one. 10 out of 10. Okay? Or yeah, I caught him sleeping on the job. Okay. Once, twice, not just one time. And they were sick. They told you they were sick. But I caught him sleeping, so I rolled him up or I fired him. Like, seems a little excessive, right? This is the fourth time I caught him sleeping. Okay? Different story. I annotated the first time I gave you a warning. Second time I wrote it down. All right? Third time I gave you a formal, counseling. Fourth time, gotta go. Okay? Maybe I put you on probation and maybe I give you a fifth time, and then fifth time, you're gone. Okay? I have a solid pattern of showing this person has the same deficiency and has failed to correct or remedy the situation. Okay? And so I've done my due diligence, I've done everything I'm supposed to do, so now I can, say with certainty, like, hey, I provide the employee with written warning. Not only that, I provide the employee with resources for remediation, all right? Resources to get help or assistance with their issue. They never took advantage of it, okay? That's how you cover your butt as an employer, all right? Provide written grounds for termination decisions. Again, if you see the pattern here, okay, document, document, document. Okay, especially once you start seeing problems start coming up with certain employees, right? They're late all the time, or their work is poor. All right, first time, okay, even the second time might be like okay, but if it's a recurring pattern within a certain period of time, you have to take consideration like, okay, you can't be late twice a week. Okay, twice a year, yes. Twice a week, no. Not happening. Okay? And so you have to make sure that you document everything possible. No documentation, you will be stuck with that person for a long time. And you just can't get rid of them. And if you get rid of them, you have no documentation, you're going to be facing a wrongful discharge lawsuit and you're going to lose. Okay? I've seen it before. It just, you get wrapped up in your day-to-day stuff as a supervisor, manager, or leader, and someone comes in late, you say, oh, man, you're late again, and you forget to write it down or annotate it somehow, or even put it, as part of the evaluation process. And then next thing you know, 4 or 5 years go by, the person has the worst work you have, and it's time to cut people, right? And we need to let 10% of the force go. And that person's the first one on your list, okay? And they say, well, why'd I get fired? All right, well, we gotta really get rid of 10%. Yeah, but okay, but I work well, I did fine, my evals are good. Like, no, not really. You're like one of the bottom people here. Your productivity is not great, your efficiency is not great, you're always late, whatever the case may be. So we're gonna get rid of you, okay? And the person's gonna be like, well, I don't think so. If I go for discharge, you will be prepared and ready to go, right? But you have the document. If you don't, you're gonna have a situation where you can't get rid of the person. Okay, and I had somebody like that work for me. Right? The government's one of the hardest places to get rid of someone. Right? You work for the government, it's the act of God to get rid of them, right? It takes years of documentation to get rid of someone. Okay? Corporate America, a little different. Corporate America is a little more expedient. They don't play around all that stuff. Like 3, 4 times, you're gone, all right? Especially when you have appointment at will, those kind of mechanisms, people tend to go pretty quickly, okay? All right. Now, this one here is probably one of the more important ones, especially in light of our society nowadays, all right? Involve more than one person in the dismissal decision. All right, not only dismissal decision, but also in the dismissal act. Right? So when you are thinking about getting rid of someone, make sure that you bounce it off your boss. Hey, thinking about getting rid of Joey. Okay, and this is the reason why. Okay, X, Y, Z. All right. Your boss will be like, no, that's not, we don't have any grounds. That's not good enough. Or, yeah, perfect. Okay. Or you may ask another colleague, all right, to get their opinion because you may be biased in a certain way because you've been dealing with this person over and over again. And you know this person, personally. There may be some bias. There may be some hesitancy to get rid of them. Or there may be a rush to get rid of them and you're kind of blinded by your anger or your emotions, right? So you let somebody else take a look at it. Someone who's impartial and who's objective and not subjective, okay? And let them tell you, like, hey, you know what? I looked at it just on the merits that you got here and looks solid, okay? I think move forward with the dismissal. Or, nah, this is really a weak case, all right? So why don't we hold on to it, document more if they keep screwing up, and then come back to me, right? When you feel like you've had enough documentation, we have a stronger case, right? And you see this play out, not necessarily in the sense of hiring, firing, but you see it play out if you watch any Law and Order or court cases or things like that, right? You'll see that sometimes you'll hear something about in the news and you think, oh, this person's going to court, they're going to jail, they're going to prison. And you're like, no, charges have been dismissed, they let the person go. Like, wait a minute, I know he did it. I saw him. Or I know somebody that knows that he did it, right? Or she did it. We don't have enough evidence. Okay? So if you drop the case, especially in murder cases, you can only try someone once for murder. Can't go, once they get acquitted for murder, you can't go back and take them again. All right? And so you have to be really careful. You have to have a lot of evidence. Your paper fortress has to be very, very tight, all right? You can't just have circumstantial evidence. You need to have physical evidence and on top of circumstantial evidence to prove your case, right? And many times lawyers will not take the case to trial because it's a weak case, right? And we don't want to get thrown out because it's weak, or we don't want the person to get convicted, but the jury's like, yeah, but it was just a pen, or they just stole a stapler, or it was this and that, and so they'll give them like, okay, we'll give them 5 years probation. I'm like, whoa, 5 years probation. Okay, well, I thought they were gonna get a couple years in prison. Like, no, 5 years probation, the case is weak. Okay, so you have to make sure that your case is strong, right? And so in that, when you involve more than one person, you get their perspective, right? 'Cause that person will tell you, or those people will tell you, like, hey, this is not gonna work. Most times, when you get ready to fire somebody or discharge someone, HR, there's a typically committee that person's file will go to, and they will look at the case from an objective standpoint, okay, and then decide whether or not there's a real case. Because now we're talking about protecting the company, all right? We don't want you to make a decision about firing someone, and then guess who's gonna get sued? The company, not you. Right? Now you can get sued personally, but for the most part, who has the most money? Me or the company? The company. I'm suing the company. Okay? And so you have to be careful with that, but it's important to involve more than one person in the decision. And also, as I said, in the process. Okay, and what I mean by that is once you come to the determination that you're gonna discharge someone, you bring them into your office, right? You make sure you have someone else there. Okay? Especially if it's an opposite gender, you have someone there who's the same gender as them, right? If you can, right? If you can't, just have another individual in there, right? And as you're saying, hey, we have to let you go. These are the reasons why. Sometimes you don't have to tell them, but as a good boss, they're living on decent terms. and it's just not a good fit, then you tell them, hey, it's not a good fit, these are the reasons why. It's something else, then it's something else, right? But you have someone else there as a witness that can vouch or can corroborate your side of the story if it goes to something else, right? If the person files a lawsuit, if the person claims, discrimination or unfair treatment or something like that, right? Doesn't matter. You have someone else in the room with you, okay? This is a piece of advice I always give everyone, especially when you are speaking to the opposite sex. Okay? Always try to have someone in the office with you if you speak to the opposite sex and it's going to be something that's going to be derogatory in nature, right? I'm not talking about like their performance evaluation. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like they did something or something happened, right? And you have to counsel them. You have to give them some kind of, formal, reprimand or something like that, right? Have someone else in there as a witness, right? Not another colleague, not another coworker, someone who's, either on the same level as you or higher, but from a different department. Okay, not anyone that's in your department, right? Someone else is out of your department, someone, that, it just in a higher or same position than you, right? Because you want to make sure you have someone that's gonna diffuse the whole he say, she say thing, right? Because it's your word against mine. Unless you recorded it, which is again illegal, right? You can't record people without getting their permission, right? I record you, illegal, can't use that in court, right? You may have admitted everything, but if you're working for the feds, for FBI, CIA, or something like that, or the police undercover, or something like that, you have no right to record anybody. You can, but it's not gonna be admissible. All right, what time is it?
6:37.
Okay. All right, so we got just cause and due process, all right? Then we'll take a break, all right? So just cause is just, it's the employer's reason for firing you, right? But it's a legitimate reason, right? I have cause to let you go, okay? You're late, you harass people, right? Your work is not great, whatever it is, right? I have some justification as to why I fired you, right? You have to have just cause, right, to take any action. Okay, it's like probable cause from a police standpoint, from a law enforcement standpoint, right? You know that the police they can't just stop you for any reason.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have probable cause, right? Probable cause could be a shattered headlight, could be your light's not working, it could be you driving up, crack windshield, right? It could be you swerving in the road. That's all probable cause, right? Speeding, right? That's probable cause. Same thing in the civilian environment. You have to have just cause, right? It has to be reason as to why you are letting me go or discharging me, right? What is it? And you need to know, okay? And so it works the same way. Due process, though, is something different, right? Due process is the whole aspect of being treated fairly by the employer, excuse me, right? That you're gonna receive fair treatment and I'm gonna investigate, I'm gonna give you a fair trial, I'm gonna give you a fair and objective analysis or, investigation into what's going on, and then we'll make a decision based on the facts that we find, right? Because everyone is owed due process, okay? And I'm gonna do it in the most expedient manner possible. That's another thing about due process. Due process says, I'm going to adjudicate your situation as quickly as I can and not prolong it, okay? And I'm gonna do it fairly and objectively. I'm gonna do it in the sense that you're gonna get a fair shot, right? We're not gonna try to set you up or frame you or anything like that, right? You're gonna get all the resources that's available to you, right? This is why when you go, well, not you, but if someone is in prison or in jail, they get arrested, the city, state, whatever, gives them a lawyer, a public defender, right? Because that's part of your due process, legal representation. So you can decide to say, I don't want your lawyer. I'm going to represent myself, or I'm gonna get my own lawyer if I have the money. But most people that get arrested don't have the money for a lawyer. Okay, and so you will be appointed one, right? Everybody remember that line? You know, if you don't have one, you will be appointed one. That's what a public defender does, right?
Yeah.
That's all part of the due process system, okay? This is why it takes so long sometimes when someone goes to jail, someone does something, get arrested. That's why it takes so long to get to court, because they have due process. An investigation has to be done, right? A thorough investigation, because we're talking about changing someone's life, right? Same thing in the workplace, we're changing someone's life, right? We're trying to get rid of them, and so they need to be treated fairly, right? It has to be an investigation done by a competent authority. Okay, not just anybody. It has to be a competent authority who's trusted, who he or she knows what they're doing, and is objective and is gonna write it up the way they write it up. Okay? All right, what time is it now?
41.
41. All right, let's take, let's come back at 6:50. Yeah, come back at 6:50. Okay. Yeah, what time is it?
That's 9 minutes.
Yeah, I'm making 6:51. No, 6:55. Okay. 6:55. 6:55, Joe.
I am going to. The what? Game? We want to game. We are in semi-finals now. We won Saturday, Sunday, both. Wow. We also play, cricket. They are friends. Why is like, I thought cricket is this. Yeah, Caribbean. Appreciate it. Well, well, not to text you, but I have the number. How is it? Hi, Sachi.
Hi.
You doing?
Yeah, right.
How are you?
Your, photo.
Yeah, well, I remember that when I was in my, yeah.
Yeah.
I try to, right, so, you know, the professor, sometimes, that professor sometimes gives me more. Going to stuff, the quiz exams. So I will check my corrector, maybe, I could get, the question to the quiz done before then. I was just, you know, be very, I've been busy, my wife is here.
Yeah, for now, I'm good. Yeah, I'm waiting. My exams are going to before I
You know, I don't think so. If you're doing your classes, if you're good with your projects, depending on how exam you
I'm not sure.
do.
Yeah, but I have, yeah, we will ask him, but what time,
That's asking.
yeah.
At the end of the day, the fun of the hour is, and then the exam, they have this one.
Yeah, right. I know also internet, yeah, we can find it.
You can say it. I
Yeah.
mean, so, but I think for the most part, it's important that all your research paper, if you do all those ones, then you can find this but I think you're trying. Then what is this called? What is the grade? Are you grade? What is the grade?
I did right now. You know, where yeah. Which is, this was the professor by the January and I, give us a kind of opportunity to get better grade or something like that. Yeah, but I have thought, I think, things like passport for you. Yeah, agree. Different first to the
Organization innovation, who's that? Is lady?
yeah, yeah, but it's just online platform, the difference is much. You have tried not Santiago, so I have never seen.
Oh, you went to San Diego.
Not Santiago, maybe Costa or something. I'm sure I'm go to the
Canberra. So is she difficult?
See, little bit, but how comment that, like, engagement is so specific, sometimes kind of tough. Such, difference is only you are is necessary or something like that. But I'm not sure if, I ignore such a comment, how she do it. But other case study is great. Even, my group, man, didn't very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just give the kind of look like, right? So,
So I'm great, so I'm not really there, right?
yeah, maybe no. Yeah, we just graduate from. Don't you think?
Oh, well, I don't believe I believe it. I don't believe I believe this.
Maybe you don't.
Because my next term course, will be taken by.
Yeah, same program. Maybe I will take similar one. I think one. You don't know.
Oh, because one, and I will do one.
Which one? You will take.
Yeah, I'm taking this.
This one.
I think I
Okay.
told you about it. I think I told you, yeah, I'm taking this. Are you doing that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe yes.
Are you doing this?
Oh, yes, I will.
Sure. Do you have a book?
No, I'm thinking about how should I do it? Yeah, buy or I was looking for someone to have, but I have never getting that.
But I will check the internet and I'm going to get the PDF.
PDF, right?
Yeah.
PDF is better.
The PDF, yeah. Better, but the PDF that I found is the third edition, this is the fourth edition.
Yeah, right. So that's why I was asking, maybe how the edition work, because I with there the earlier version, no?
What is
Is that
it?
right now?
The same one.
Oh, really?
So these guys, yeah, I'm doing this, yeah.
This one, right?
I think I sent it to you, so you asked me that.
Mhm.
Right, so I checked online, there's a particular site where you can get the earlier version, the third edition.
Yeah.
It's $20.
$17.
$20.
$20,
Yeah.
yeah, I want, yeah, yeah, easier to buy. Yeah, maybe, so I just think about, if I couldn't find someone to have, I will ask the professor,
They're asking,
yeah, subversion.
you're asking them?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have $20 to spend. I mean.
Yeah, even,
So
yeah, it's better to find someone to have, but, yeah, sure. Maybe I couldn't find old version, so no one
Right,
has
yeah,
it.
and actually, so in some possibility that we will decide.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is it.
it's so, but it's 14 13. I, or even just rent,
So what is it?
how about buy? So,
That is a lot.
if I buy such a one, I can spread no one. Then PDF might be, patent
should
or
be-
something, we could buy some,
So do you want to buy the hardcover, or do you want to buy the hardcover, or you want to buy the PDF?
PDF is better, PDF or something else to it one.
Yeah, so I think PDF is good, so. See, this is you, this is the,
Paper one,
Paper.
right?
so this is, I think this is paper as well.
No, I'm not sure, maybe it's a different. Yeah, different ebook, right? Oh, yeah, around 2017. Yeah. If I want to find something, ebook is very easier to find function key and subject. The print one, we have to looking for the, right? Yeah, even we have to take examination
Yeah.
or quizzes. Yeah, right, ebook is much work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Recommend ebook, we have to buy. Ebook maybe can share to others. There's a pattern, some guide to something. only PDF is the God,
Yeah, that's the thing, so we have to look for the PDF.
right? Yeah,
Can
that
we
was,
just search, can we search for it though?
yeah, but I don't, yeah, you said, I don't, right?
Yeah.
Maybe only part of
I can use that. So, this, we're looking for, this guy, here.
Or only name, only, you know, only,
Lemon, guy, PDF, let's see who we have.
oh,
This,
do you find it?
oh, this,
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. I never wonder, it's easy down here. Maybe it's a password.
this, that version of it.
Yeah, maybe fourth by and we couldn't find it.
For version. Multiple, the third version.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's, yeah, like,
the third version.
yeah. Sometimes, yeah, well, where? Eh? Eh? Right, oh, but it's, I just think it is work. It's work. Right, don't you think so?
Wow.
Wow. Wow, awesome. You're a genius. Wow, only one click. It, maybe it's larger for the city. Wow. Wow. Oh, hmm. Wow, wonderful. Do you need a link?
For me?
You're checking there.
Yeah, you can just copy them and send me.
Yeah, right. It's now. Yeah, what?
We've got one, the chapter.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
It's good.
Yeah. You found that.
Wow.
All right.
You have to spend some about.
Okay. Yeah, the bullet. Oh my God. Can you find the function to them? Yeah. Oh, it's that.
So they're looking for.
For them. Oh, it works. Normally it works.
Good.
Yeah, perfect.
Nice. You all right?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay, wow.
Alright, good.
Okay. It's good. How should we download it? Is
Yes,
it?
you can download it.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
I just did the button.
Yes, sure.
So do you talk to your family?
How many?
Do you talk to your family in the
Yeah, my family means my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today, Valentine's.
You talking more time, right?
But once a week or something. Yeah. So, time gap. 40 hours. 40 hours or 14 or 15 or
14.
14
In
hours.
Japan,
Yeah.
14 hours.
Yeah, the summertime is okay, kind of okay.
Yeah.
The winter time, it's kind of really hard to call.
Yeah. Call,
Yeah.
So she helps make time.
Yeah.
That's your husband we're talking about.
Good.
Kind of different stuff. Okay, let's get going. All right, zooming back. All right, so due process, okay? Want to make sure that the process is fair and that the employees get a, fair shake and there's nothing, funny going on, okay? All right, so some just cause determinants, okay? If we're looking at, just cause, right? Was the employee's rule reasonable, okay? You always have to look at, as I said before, the expectations, right? That's something that's really achievable, attainable, okay? If it's not, and it's insurmountable, then, it's not really fair to that person to have this particular metric or this particular milestone that they need to achieve. Not good, right? If they don't make it, then you try to fire them, right? So first thing is, employees were reasonable. Was the employee warned of the consequences of the conduct, right? Did I tell you like, hey, if you do X, consequence Y is gonna happen, all right? You have to be aware of the punishment for the crime or for the violation, whatever the case may be. And that's pretty, straightforward, all right? That's something that, you kind of understand when you go for a job, like, there's consequences to everything. Right, typically a warning, the next thing is gonna be a written or verbal warning or verbal, write-up or written write-up, okay? Third time will be probation, fourth time will be, termination, okay? And so you have to make them aware of what, the consequences may be, if they do something wrong. The management investigate before disciplining, okay? If the management look and, provide due process, right? Did they talk to other people? Did they talk to the employee? Did they, really look at the situation and look at all the different scenarios and then come with their discipline or decide this is what we're gonna do, right? Was the investigation fair and impartial? This is another important aspect, right? Who's doing the investigation? How long did they have to do it? What resources were they provided? Okay? And are there any undue influences that are going to impact the investigator's decision, okay? And, I'm gonna talk about this a little more than the other areas because this is really where you can make or break someone, right? The investigator has a lot of leeway, okay? If the person writes an investigation and the investigation is favorable towards the employee, then more likely the employee's gonna keep their job and the employer will either say, okay, no problem, we'll move on and we'll, pay you back, pay whatever the case may be or whatever it is. Or if it's written in favor of the employer, like, okay, well, we have just cause to get rid of you based on the investigation that was done, we're gonna let you go, okay? Uh, the, the clout or the position of the investigator is extremely important, okay? And just to make sure that the investigator is objective and not necessarily biased towards one person or another, right? Because if you're talking about an investigator, where's the investigator gonna come from? What?
Where come from? Where the
Right, who the investigator, but where did they come, where they coming from? Where? Where am I gonna, where am I, the where?
HR?
HR maybe, yeah, right?
It could be someone from the department.
Them part, right? But at the end of the day, it's someone from the company. Right? Depends on what it is.
Yeah.
Depends on what it is, right? But it's gonna be more like someone from the company, right? Now, this person, are they in jeopardy of losing their job if the report doesn't come out the way the company wants it to come out? Okay? This is the problem with investigators, right? They have this, unseen or unwritten obligation to be loyal to the company, right? When your job is to be impartial and to be objective and not necessarily worry about what the company is worried about, okay? You just want to make sure that everything is annotated fairly, investigation is done thoroughly, to the best of your ability, and has facts, right? The way investigations are written, there's places for facts and there's places for opinions. Okay, we're gonna lay out the facts first, and then at the back end, I will give you my opinion as an investigator from what I saw, talking to people based on the documents I have. I'll give you an opinion as to, you know, what I think, and then I will give you recommendations as to what course of action we should take. Firing, nothing, remediation, whatever the case may be, right? And then it's up to the board to decide whether they want to take my recommendation, do something else, or the investigation is valid or not valid. It's not, once I'm doing the investigation, it's over with, right? But they got to make sure that the investigator is not getting undue pressure from someplace else to make a report sound a certain way, because the company is trying to protect themselves, right? This is why many instances, depending again on what's done, they get outside investigators, right? And the best, you know, we can do is, like you said, get someone from HR, get someone from a different department, right? Who has no ties to the person, but still works for the company, but at the same time, you expect them to be very objective in their approach, right? So we have to keep that in mind. So investigation, fair and impartial is an important aspect, so that will definitely get the employee or employer in trouble, right? If the investigator is a friend of the employee that's being investigated, probably don't want that. Okay, that's not gonna do well for the company, right? You don't, you want to make sure everything is very on the up and up, right? Sufficient evidence of guilt, all right? Did we accumulate everything? Did we get all the data that we needed, all the information that we needed, to compile and to make sure that we had a strong case? If we didn't do that, then, okay, the person may win that case, okay? So we have to make sure that we understand that of evidence, where the rules and penalties apply consistently, right? Consistency is a big deal. When it comes down to, you know, demonstrating a pattern of treating everyone the same. You can't have it where last year Bobby did this and they gave him a slap on the hand. This year Jerry does the same thing, he gets fired. It's inconsistent, okay? And the consistency, what is the precedence, all right? What happened last time this happened? Oh, such and such did this, they got 2 weeks probation, and then they had to, you know, do something else. And then Johnny just did it, he got fired, she got fired, or whatever the case may be. Okay, that's a little, that's not in line with how we do business, right? And so that can be a sticking point that can come up to back to bite you. Right? Why is it that you treat this person so much differently than you treat another 4 or 5 different people? Okay, now we start looking at different things, race, we start looking at gender, we start looking at position, we start looking at religion, we start looking at all the protected classes as to why this person would get treated differently, right? What is your bias, right? What is your personal bias that makes you want to treat this person differently, right? And that's not going to be good for the company, right? There's something called incidental liability or something to that degree. It's something like that, but it's incidental something. But basically what it says is that if you work for a company and you are using company resources, you're using company assets, and you commit a crime, the company is somewhat liable. Okay, the company is somewhat liable. So if I give you a company car and you're out and you're doing some company work, but then you're off the clock, right? You go to the bar, you have a couple drinks, you get pulled over or you hit someone, right? Guess what? The company probably lied. Yeah, they're gonna try to sue the company, for sure, okay? Because we call incidental liability. Basically, you're saying, hey, company, it's your fault because you gave this person a resource and you did not give them proper instruction on how to, deal with this particular resource, right? How to handle it, how to be responsible with it. And so you are at fault also because maybe you did or didn't, right? This is where the training comes in, where no, we trained them on not to drink and drive, not to, okay, we could go, right? You did your part. And so you can't sue the company, but there've been lots of cases, that companies get sued for what their employees do. Right, when they had nothing to do with, they weren't nowhere around, but they had this liability because the person used company resources, right? Or could use company facility, or use something that the company gave them, right? And they committed a crime, right? And so now the company is liable to, so for instance, like, well, it's not as much anymore, but when we first started having a lot of shootings, right? Mass shootings, a lot of people sued the gun company. Right? Because they're like, hey, you manufacture all these guns, but you really don't have any like safety gun training, right? You don't provide any instructions for how to use a gun. You don't provide any training. You don't provide any instruction. You just manufacture guns and you sell them to a retailer or distributor and then distribute the guns, right? There's no thought for how the person handles the gun, right? Everybody here know how to handle a gun? No, anybody ever shot a gun? A pistol, rifle, anything?
I have just touched.
Never touched.
Touched? Just touched, not shot.
Never,
Okay.
never touched.
All right, so take it from me, someone's been shooting guns for 21 years, okay?
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's not, it's very dangerous, guns are, super dangerous, and so, but they don't come with instructions. You just get them, and then you kind of figure it out.
Water gun.
Right. Yeah, water gun, yeah, well, it don't count as much, except in the winter time. Water guns count in the winter time, but that's dangerous, now you're gonna freeze me. Right, so, but regular guns, don't come with instructions, so companies, people trying to sue Smith and Wesson and, Glock and people that made weapons, okay? Because you bought the weapon, there weren't any instructions, but the manufacturer assumed no liability. Right? So you just can't make something and put it out there and think that's not gonna come back to bite you. Right? And it has come back to bite them, but they've also, made a lot of changes as to providing instruction for, retailers and people that are selling guns, but even though we don't necessarily always adhere to those things, right? It's state by state, as far as gun control goes and making sure that we got all the proper screening in place, documentation, paperwork, all that stuff, right? We know it doesn't work very well here, okay? But at the same time, the companies that manufacture the guns have realized that they are liable and they have exposure, and so they have taken steps to make sure that they don't, get blamed for all this stuff. Okay, because we had what, 3, 4 mass shooting in the past few months.
Yeah.
All right, so imagine they were getting sued all day. Like every time you turn around, oh, somebody's suing me now. Okay, 3 people got shot. They're gonna sue the gun manufacturer and they're gonna sue everybody, right? So that's kind of how you have to watch out for that. Okay. And then was the penalty reasonable given the offense, right? The penalty has to be commensurate with the offense, all right? And what I mean by that is it can't be an eye for an eye. So, okay, that's not how we do it in the States, okay? If someone commits a minor offense, you can't put them in prison. You stole a pencil, you stole a stapler, or you take somebody's car or, you know, something, you can't put your business there, okay? And so you have to make sure that the punishment fits the crime, right? That's why we have different levels of crimes, right? We have misdemeanors, we have felonies, we have degrees, right? It's murder one, murder two, murder three, you know, manslaughter, aggravated assault. There's all these different categories of murder, different categories of assault, different categories of rape, different categories of kidnapping, a different aspect, because we want to make sure that we know what the crime is, all right? But understand that a drug trafficker is different from a person who is consuming drugs. Okay, that's not the same, it's not the same thing, right? If you're a consumer of the drug, right, you're not distributing, you're just getting some for personal use, okay? But you're still breaking the law because the drug is illegal. If you're a distributor, that's something different, right? You are selling with the intent to make money, right? And to involve yourself in a conspiracy to distribute narcotics. Total different ballgame, right? This person will get 20 years, this person will get a couple years, maybe, right? Maybe they'll get rehab, you know, something to that effect, right? As long as they don't do something while they're in the induced drug state, they don't commit a crime, right? That's really where the issue comes in. Somebody's high on drugs or they're trying to get money for drugs and they commit a crime because of that, right? That was what that's what they get in trouble for, really, not necessarily the drug itself. They, you know, if they purchase a drug is against the law, but at the same time, sometimes people commit crimes, like they rob people, they kill people. People do a lot of crazy things when they're on drugs. Right? They're just not the same person. They just come totally different. And so that person's gonna get a different punishment than the person who's selling the drugs, right? The person who's consuming. Okay? So different aspects. So we have to make sure that the penalty definitely fits the offense. All right, due process considerations. All right. How have precedents been handled, right? As I said before, what happened before when somebody else did this, right? When somebody else, you know, punched the boss in the face, what happened to them before? Okay, so it should be the same thing based on the circumstances, right? This is why you have to have an investigation and have due process, right? Because we need to see, are the elements of the crime the same as something that's already occurred, right? This is where we have precedents, right? We don't have to go back and recreate the wheel because we already know, hey, this same thing happened last year, this is what happened. Okay, it's the same thing, same exact thing, there's a few differences, but same thing. Okay, cool. So we have precedents. So we have something to lean back on and say, look, this happened last year, this is how we addressed it. Now, thing about precedents is that the precedents may have been extreme, right? They may have said, hey, you're late once, you're fired. That's just the company policy. Okay? Or you're late twice, you're fired. But at least people know that when they come in. You're late more than once, next time you come in, you're fired, right? And it happens. Next time it happens, same thing occurs. You're late twice, you're fired. I'm saying the precedents, okay? Even though the precedents seem extreme, I'm still exhibiting a pattern of consistent behavior. All right? And so that's gonna help me. If I have to go to trial, I have to go talk to a lawyer or judge and say, hey, Judge, Your Honor, this is the way we do business. It's consistent. Now, would someone deem it extreme? Maybe another company wouldn't do it this way, but this is how we do it. And we've shown time and time again that we've been fair in our adjudication and our, you know, doling out of punishments. It's the same for everybody. Doesn't matter. Okay? And then they're gonna go, okay, well, it's extreme, but it is what it is, right? If you've been fair, everybody is the same. Now, you know, it's almost to the point where, like different classes, right? I grade differently for certain things than other teachers, okay? And so, but because I do it consistently, students know, like, okay, yes, it's not exactly how Dr., you know, Haddad or, you know, whoever, Professor Haddad or whoever does it graded, but this is the way Dr. K graded, and he grades it like this for every class that I've had with every student. I don't like it, but he's consistent. I know what to expect from him, right? I know what's coming, right? Versus maybe Dr. Haddad or somebody else. Dr. Laura may go, oh yeah, you know, I don't really mess with that. Right? And he's consistent in that. Okay, so consistency has a big role in trying to justify your due process, justify, your just cause, and making sure you have your rationale and the reason behind why you take certain actions, okay? When the employee asks for his or her side of the story, okay, you gotta have this, all right? If you're doing an investigation internally, you're gonna have to get a statement from the person on their account, and that's usually the first thing that happens. Write down your statement. Okay, give me a statement, or someone's gonna come interview you, and they get your account. What's your side of the story? Man, I think it's your side of the story. And then once I get your side of the story, then I feel like all the other side of the story. All right, and then after that, I kind of see what things match up. All right, and the things that match up are usually my facts. These are the things that I know for sure happened because both sides said they occurred. Now, what I have a problem with is my employee said this, and that some other people said this, right? This is discrepancies, right? This is where we don't necessarily align, okay? Now it's my job to figure out what's true, what's not, right? As an investigator, to kind of just say, hey, this is a fact, this is not a fact. This is something that, the employee said, they did. Some people have accounts of different things. Now I have to kind of weigh which one is, I think is true or not, okay? Or kind of lay out the facts as I see them, okay? Assumptions, right? Because you have different categories. You have facts, you have assumptions, all right? You have, implications, right? And you have kind of opinions, recommendations, and that kind of thing. I'll go into the investigative report, right? It's done differently by each company, right? They all have their own different templates, but for the most part, that's kind of the contents of the elements of the investigation, right? Is a complaint process available? Now, for any company with at least 15 people, you have to have some kind of complaint process, okay? Because you fall under Department of Labor, you fall under all the acts, you fall under, Title VII, Civil Rights Act 1964. So you have to adhere to certain things, right? EEOC, all that good stuff, okay? And so you have to have a process in which people can file complaints. Okay? So you as a student, all right, if you don't agree with a grade, what can you do?
First complaint,
Or complain to me, right? Yeah. And then what?
so if I don't get response, I can go to master
Okay. And then what?
and then to the president.
And then the president, right? Something like that, right? But what Hardik is saying is there's a process, right? He has a general understanding of the process, right? You come to me, say, hey, Dr. Page, I don't necessarily agree with this, and yada, 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 and I go, sorry, this is the way it is, okay? And you go, okay, no problem, I'm taking this further. Totally, you're right. I have no problem with that. If you feel like you want to take it further, by all means, take it further. And, if I'm wrong, I'll fix it. If I'm not, then that's the way it is, right? But it gets forwarded up, okay? It goes to Rupali or Marcelo or whoever, right? You put in a form, you fill out the form, that gets forwarded. Then once that gets forwarded, it goes to committee. And then the president has the final say on what the committee agreed on or recommended. And then if the committee said, hey, we recommend the grade get changed and the student get the points, that's what happened. If they recommend that, hey, the professor was correct and that the points in the grade was fair and just, that's what happens, okay? But it's a process, okay? That's the process. If you didn't know the process and there wasn't one, then there's some problems. Yes,
So here's the conference process, right? Should it be written?
yes.
Does it be in a paper
Yes.
or we get a template or something?
It has to be somewhere. It has to be written somewhere. It should be written somewhere.
So that's complaints from maybe employees or.
It doesn't matter. Well, a complaint from you and I, there's no process for that. Right? An organizational complaint, that's different, right? If you're gonna step out of our relationship here, classroom student, right? Because this is where the problem exists, right? Once you decide to step out of that interaction, then boom, there should be a process for that. Should be written and laid out pretty clearly as to what it is you need to do. Step one, fill out form 123. Step two, send it to, such and such here. Step three, we will give you, it'll be 7 to 10 days before we adjudicate it. Step five, you should get a written or verbal response, within 72 hours of a decision being made. Step six, if you don't agree with the decision, you have 3 days to appeal. Step four, six, seven, you can put, you may not agree with it, but you are going to accept what the outcome is, but you want to make a rebuttal statement. You make a rebuttal statement. It has to be written down. Okay?
I'm asking this question because looking at my former employer,
Mm-hmm.
never had a process like
Yeah, never complete process? Yeah, it should be.
everyone, so everyone will, careful,
Mm-hmm.
talking to the HR about someone.
Yeah.
So that, you don't get the fear of retaliation.
Right.
I think I have something to say. I have to call my former employer.
Yeah, yeah. Now, sometimes they'll have one, but it'll be so buried and so deep in the employee handbook or in other documentation that you don't really know where it's at, but they have one. Like if they needed to produce one, they have one. They just don't make it very accessible because they don't want you to be able to go through the process. Right? And it happens, they just, now most companies, they're up and they're legit. It's gonna be plain as day, okay, complaint, grievance, whatever it is, right? But the first place here, you will go to HR. After you talk to your boss, you go to HR and they explain your situation and tell them you want to file a grievance. And then they'll tell you, fill out this form, send it here. We give you 10 days, we have 10 days. Once the commission or the committee makes a decision, we'll let you know in writing or verbally, right? But you're gonna get something in writing either way. You have a chance to accept, rebut, whatever, and then boom, it'll be put in your official record, whatever the outcome is, and whatever's supposed to happen is gonna happen, okay? So you should have, it should be something there, as a complaint process, okay? All right, did the company retaliate against the employer, right? This was the thing we were talking about, retaliation. Companies should not retaliate against you if you are filing a grievance or complaint against them, okay? That's against the law. For them to do something to you in revenge or retribution for you saying that one of the employees treated you unfairly, or the company didn't take care of you, the company, did this and did that, right? They shouldn't retaliate against you. And so retaliation come in so many different forms, right? And you may not necessarily see it as retaliation, but underlying it is, right? So let's just say, for instance, you say, hey, I'm filing a sexual harassment complaint or grievance against, my coworker, or my boss, or whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden, you were working on this great project, and then now they took you off the project and you're working on something else, right? And why? This has nothing to do with my work performance. It has nothing to do with, the project. The people that I work for on the project, they have no idea I'm suing the company or I filed a complaint. So why are you retaliating against me, right? Or there may be a organized effort by the accused, right, to kind of get the rest of the employees to kind of go against you. Okay, say, oh, well, he's lying, he's full of that, I didn't do that, he's a bad worker. And the next thing we have everybody that used to be your friend and coworker, and now they kind of like, oh, they don't believe you, they don't trust you, they don't want to talk to you, they shunned you, right? Now you become isolated, right? And they have basically, taken you out of the social aspect of the job, right? They're making you feel very unwanted, and you basically sit in the corner by yourself the whole day and just work, right? People talk about you, that kind of thing, right? That is a form of retaliation. Okay, job assignment switch from favorable to unfavorable. Right? Something was good that you were doing, nice office, all of a sudden your office is gone, right? Oh, we need your office for something. Like what? Right? Everybody else that's in my position has an office. Now I don't have an office because why? Okay, so you have to look at those different things, right? So retaliation comes in different forms, but you cannot retaliate, right? If the company retaliates, then there's no due process, all right? It's just, you're just creating kind of a constructive discharge environment, all right? Where you're saying, I'm gonna make it so crappy for them, they wanna file a complaint against me, I'm gonna make it horrible for them, right? No, can't do that, okay? Well, decision based on facts, all right? Again, I told you that facts are the most important thing in an investigation, all right? We try to get as many sides of the story as we can and see how many things are in common, right? How many things that everybody agree with, the time, the place, the actual incident itself. Now, some things may, be different from perspective, but at the same time, we already know that these are all facts. It happened in this building, there was an argument over whatever, Bill punched John, then John picked up the chair and hit Bill, and then they started wrestling, and then, William came in, and then William punched John. All right, they jumped Bill, or whatever the case may be, and everybody has the same account as to how things happen. Now, there's different, stories, but things that everybody has in common, those are my facts, right? And those are the things that I use to really figure out which way to go. Where actions and process viewed as fair by outside entities, right? And this is where after you have an investigation, always prudent to have a third party kind of look at it, look at the, results. Now, I'm not talking about something minor, right? I'm talking about something of a more grander scale, like sexual harassment, sexual assault, embezzlement, things of that nature, right? Not just a little, we had a fight, we're doing an investigation because we can't really resolve what's going on, all right? We're gonna separate you two. You go over here, you go over here, and then we'll do an investigation, get this thing settled, and figure out what the best course of action is, right? I don't need a third party for that, all right? But you have something that can be scrutinized or maybe able to be perceived poorly in the public eye. You probably want to have a third person come in who's totally objective, who's external to the company, have them come in and kind of look the investigation over and maybe touch it on a few random places, right? Talk to a few random people throughout and see, okay, I'm gonna talk to Joe, I'm gonna talk to Billy, I'm gonna talk to William. Let me see if they have the same story that they gave the first time, right? Let me see if they're consistent. Story change up, then, okay, I got some issues, right? Or maybe they left something out and they told me, oh, so, I remember this. Maybe that thing changes the outcome, okay? And so it's good to have a third party come in because you don't want stuff to come back afterwards, after you've done the investigation and you've given the punishment, and it comes to light, oh, such and such, really wasn't really there the whole time. They were there for 2 minutes and they left. So they only saw one part of it. Like, oh, okay. So they didn't see everything else? Like, no. Well, how come they didn't see that before? All right, it happens all the time. Right? And so those things can be kind of alleviated or mitigated anyway if you have a third party come in and make sure that, okay, we got an objective look on it and the consensus is that the findings were correct. Okay, so you can consider this sort of like research. Okay, there's one key element of our research when you do it is that when you write your research paper up, right, your findings, your results, all that good stuff, anyone should be able to pick it up who's a researcher and follow your steps and come out with the same outcome. That is a hallmark of research. Okay, I have to be able to replicate it. The same way you got it, I need to do it the same way based on what you've written. This is why research is important. This is why APA is important. This is why all this other stuff is critical, because I may pick up your paper and it may be the foundation for something else I'm working on. But if your foundation and your work is shoddy and not, truthful or valid in a certain area, that's going to compromise my research that may very well be valid and truthful, right? But I'm basing it on shaky research. I'm basing it on biased research. I'm basing it on not credible information, right? And so mine is gonna crumble just as quickly as yours is gonna crumble, right? And so that it's important that, you know, when you do research, that someone can pick up your paper and they can do the same statistical analysis, collect the same data, or just use your data and follow your instructions, your methodology, and get the same results. And if they don't, then we have a problem. Okay, and this is kind of the peer review process, right? And everybody, if any of you guys are thinking about publishing articles, if you have, if you already, or maybe you plan on it, this is what happens. They take the paper, you submit it, and that's why it takes so long to get the paper published, because they go in and someone actually replicates your methodology. And if they don't get the same results that you got, they don't get published. Now, if you get called out. Okay, they look for you and they go, hey, this is not good research. We're keeping your eyes on you. All right, and anything you submit from this point forward, can get scrutinized left and right. Everybody's gonna look at it, right? If somebody uses it for research in their paper, take it out because it's not credible. Okay, so same thing. Yeah. All right. Any questions? No. Okay. All right. So let's look at some organizational justice. All right. So we got procedural justice, distributive justice, and then interactional justice. All right. Procedural justice is just me and my perception of how fair the process is. Okay, that's all it is. Just, do I think that I was treated fairly? Do I think that the investigation was done properly? Do I think that I have a fair shake based on what the process, has and what it's offering to me? Okay. Distributed justice is perceived fairness and distribution of outcomes. All right, in that, was my punishment the same as the other person? Okay. If it's consistent, everybody got the same punishment for being late, then it's okay. Okay, it's all right. All right, then we have interactional justice, sense in which person affected, right, or feels of that a policy affected them, and how fair is that to them, or how much they feel respected or valued by that decision. Okay, give or take. So if they decide, like, to institute a policy on lateness, or, bringing your kids to work, all right? How fair do I feel that decision is to me? Okay, how is it gonna impact me, and do I think that is the right decision? And is it, treat me with dignity and respect, right, per se, right? Does it value me, in my opinions, and who I am as a person, or the employee, to the organization? Okay, there's a lot of policies that don't necessarily work for everybody. Okay, especially, the single parent, you have different obligations and responsibilities, right? When you have young kids and you have to take care of them, and, they can't be in school till 8 or something like that, with your boss wants you to work at 7:30, those things, right? And that's something I just sit down and talk to my boss about, right? So institutional wise, or organizationally wise, if that's the policy, do I feel like that's good for me, right? Do I feel like I'm getting fair treatment? Okay, religion, right? Oh, I need to pray 5 times a day. Well, in the job, Suki said, no praying on the premises. Okay, now you're respecting me and respecting my religion and my values? No, you're not, right? Saying no praying is one thing. No praying on the facility is another thing, but I should be afforded some time to go to my car if I need to pray. Okay, or go to the lawn or somewhere and go pray, right? Shouldn't be thinking for that, I shouldn't do that. Most companies nowadays will do that, right? Like I said, when I was with Toyota, there was a room, and anybody that, was, practiced Islam, they could pray 5 times a day. They had their rugs in there, they took it with them, or whatever the case may be, and it was facing east and all, all the requirements, and they go pray. No big deal. Just another day. Like, oh, where's such and such? Oh, he's praying. Okay, cool. He'll be back in 20 minutes or whatever, however long it takes. Come back. Okay. So those are kind of interaction justice. Okay, open door policy. I'm not gonna rush too much on that, right? So I just advise as a supervisor manager, you always have an open door policy. Okay? And what we mean by that is that anybody can come in the office and talk to you. Okay? Now, the one caveat I would say about that is that if there's a person between you and that person, right? They should let that person know, right? So let's just say I'm the boss. Let's just say it's me and you, right? But you want to talk to the president. Okay? At the very least, you can come to me and say, hey, Dr. K, I'm gonna go talk to the president because I have an issue that I don't feel like I can resolve with you, or I want to talk to the president about it. I'm like, okay, cool. But at least you give me the courtesy, right? Because the president has an open door policy. That's the only reason I would turn somebody away. Like, did you tell your boss you come to see me? If you didn't give your boss an opportunity to fix it, then don't come talk to me about it. Because all I'm gonna do is go back to your boss and say, fix it. What's going on? Most problems can be solved at the lowest level.
Yes.
Okay, it's just a matter of conversation. Okay? So if you come to me and I'm not your direct boss, and you haven't told your boss you come to see me, nope, don't want to talk to you. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna listen to you, but I'm gonna call your boss.
Yeah.
Did you know such and such is coming to see me? Like, nope. Okay, well, send them back down to you and figure it out. Fix it. Right? Because there's so many layers in between you and the boss. Okay, there's HR, there's 2, 3 supervisors. The president is not it. Okay, the president is not it. So the president is not going to solve your issue. The president is gonna go down back to the people that work for him or her, fix it. Okay, and then let me know. But an open door policy is it's a good thing. It just needs to be understood from the employee standpoint of, hey, you can't skip the chain of command without some courtesy, without letting them know or giving them an opportunity to help you. Okay, because all it's gonna do, this is gonna piss off the person that is your boss, and the person's boss is gonna be pissed off because now you're coming to me for something you didn't even give your boss a chance to fix. Right? Because again, all I'm gonna do is call your boss, tell him or her to fix it. Right? So open door policies are great, but you have to make sure that you report them correctly. Now some things don't have open door policy. Right? But for the most part, you can go talk to your boss, right? Or talk to your boss's boss. You gotta let them know, right? Because they really gonna stop you. And then in the day, okay, so talk to your boss's boss. All right, so now we have some ADR, alternative dispute resolution, okay? All right, so arbitration, there's mediation. There's, what else is there? Arbitration, mediation, another one, conflict resolution. There's a few, right? But arbitration, mediation is what we're most familiar with, okay? So what's the difference between arbitration and mediation? What's the difference?
This arbitration.
Arbitration.
So I have heard this like, when I used to work in India, one company, so there's like a guy who used to work for like a different company there. And if it's something, so he's the one who took his, like, he plays as a role to take
Okay.
the decisions basically.
Okay.
It was a company of like, it's like a, ADP, there is a company.
Yeah,
ADP. So he was like something there in India company, so
Okay,
they send their people just for 1 week, once a week,
okay,
having any issues, so they listen both parties and this solve it, something like that.
okay. Is that mediation or is it arbitration? You know, which one it was? There's a difference between the two.
No.
It feels like it's two the same thing.
It feels the same, but there's one distinct difference between the two. Anybody know what the difference between arbitration and mediation is on Zoom?
See that? Like, it really depends on that one will record.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. Anybody? It's a legal thing, but it's not important. So arbitration is binding, mediation is non-binding. Okay, what I mean by that is, whatever happens in arbitration, whatever the third party, the judge or, whoever it is, the arbitrator is, whatever they decide, that's it. That's where we're going. There's no like, oh, no, I don't like that, and I'm not gonna do that, no. That's what happens, right? You can appeal, or you can decide, okay, I don't like none of this, I'm going to take this to court. I'm gonna sue, right? Mediation is different. Mediation is more like somebody comes in and they talk, right? But it's not binding, right? Whatever the mediator says, I could go, I don't like that. And I walk out, no, I don't like that. No, let's do something else. No, they have to give me more. Okay, let's give me more. Kind of like getting a divorce, right? Divorce is like in the middle, sort of mediation, arbitration. We're gonna mediate, right? But once we figure out what we want and both sides agree, it becomes arbitration at that point. Because now, once we sign these documents, they're binding. Because we're gonna take those documents and put them in front of a judge who's going to sign those documents, right? In the terms of divorce, right? In the terms of an arbitration, whoever the arbitrator is, they are a designated, qualified, person who has been recognized by the courts as someone who can dole out legal precedent, legal, decisions. Okay, they normally use retired judge or some kind of lawyer or something like that, right? Or a qualified or certified, arbitrator. All right, so whatever they say, that's the end of that, okay? That's the end of that. So, compulsory arbitration, employee waives their right to pursue legal action until arbitration is complete, okay? So once arbitration is done, then if I'm still not happy with it, right, the terms are not good, right? I don't agree with the arbitrator, I don't like it, okay, then I have to go back and say, I don't agree with the arbitrator, and I'm gonna go to court. That's the only recourse you have, right? Then they come back and they say, okay, let's go to another round of arbitration. Okay, mediation is a little different. Peer review panels, okay, are just that, right? The committees made up of people within the company that kind of look at different issues, right? That are going on in the company, and they make decisions about those issues, things like the part of the saying, right? They come in from different places, ADP may have an external committee review and committee panel. They come in, okay, what we got this week or this month or this quarter? All right, we got 10 cases we need to look at, all right? Let me see them, okay? They've already probably looked at them already, read them over, okay, let's go. Let's start banging them out. One, all right, roll, all right, how we voting? Yay, nay, okay, boom, okay. All right, this is it, that's done. Next, boom, and then they pass out the resolution, they pass out the outcomes, and then that's just the way it is, right? And typically peer review panels, they stay internal, they typically don't have anything to do necessarily with anything, legal, right? So certain things are not going to go to panel, right? Any egregious acts, any sexual assault, sexual grievances, stuff like that. We're talking about more here like personality conflicts, things that have a possibility to go to court or be a lawsuit, but at the same time, that at such a low level right now, or they're fixable, that we're gonna try to fix it. Okay? All right. Ombudsman, third party, okay, outside of the normal chain, helps to solve problems for both the manager and employee, right? You'll see ombuds or ombudsman, right? Basically, ombudsman means kind of master of all, right? Kind of, or manager of all things, okay? And so you have an ombudsman that'll come in and they'll kind of take care of some things, conflict resolution and that kind of stuff, right? Mediation, like I said before, somebody comes in, we'll talk, right? Mediation is for talking and, people to kind of resolve the issue, but it's non-binding, okay? Privacy rights, of course, right? This is a big deal in the workplace, right? Because nowadays, because of technology, we got computers and internet and Zoom, yeah, we got Zoom, we got Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, right? Now, initially, you couldn't surf the web at work, right? But people were doing it anyway, right? People were looking at Facebook at work, they're on Amazon, they're doing all kind of stuff. But then companies crack down on that stuff and say, look, you're wasting company time. You're supposed to be working, but you're over there buying Tupperware,
Yes.
buying clothes and shoes, you're tweeting, you're Snapchatting, whatever it is, right? But people got mad, right? Why do people get mad about that? Why do people get mad?
Is what they're not paying for.
Okay,
No, I think it's because they believe that it's a way for them to relax.
okay, it's always for them to relax, right? But why would people be mad about, why would they be mad about the company knowing that they're surfing the net?
Distraction.
Distraction, okay? But why would the employees be upset about it?
Killing their.
Okay, so I think it's because they feel
Yeah.
somebody somewhere is covered under the internet, so like it's an improvement in their privacy.
Yeah,
on the
right.
laptop.
Yeah. It's a privacy issue, right? So you're watching me,
Oh, yeah.
right? So you're watching my movement, you're watching what I'm doing on the computer, right? So what if I was doing something personal on the computer? What if it's something that was, private? I had to go to the doctor for something, or I had a medical condition or something like that. And I was making an appointment, right? People get mad about that. But what's the problem there? What's the problem with me being mad about that as an employee?
So you just got the privacy.
You said that again?
Privacy. Privacy.
Yes, that is, yeah, but why should I not be mad about that?
But why should I not be mad
Why
about
should I,
it?
why should I, as an employee?
Because this
Because it's
things are not allowed.
The things are not allowed,
allowed on
Okay.
duty.
yeah, all right. What else?
And what you're using belongs to the company.
That's right, there you go, right? The resources you're using belong to the company, right? Your own company time, you're using company resources. You're not doing what we're paying you for. Okay, and part of the job for the company is to make sure that they monitor the networks, right? Because just as easily as things are going out, something may be coming in because of what you're doing. Viruses. That's how a lot of viruses come in, right? Oh, you're looking at bad stuff on the internet, right? Looking at bad stuff on the internet. Next thing you know, the FBI, the police are watching me. Next thing you know, they come into the office and they're arresting people. Why? Well, they were looking at some stuff you shouldn't have been looking at on your computer. All right. And so many computers have these programs, software that tracks, right? Well, all companies, right? IT, that's one of the major functions to track and flag, right? But some of them have this software that can determine whether or not you're looking at something that you shouldn't be looking at. Okay? Because we had a big problem at one point of people looking at stuff at work and like, that's not the appropriate place for that. Okay, do that at your house, do that, but not at work. Okay? There's privacy issues. And the privacy issues are even worse now because now, from an HR standpoint, okay, if you turn in your resume and there's 4 or 5 candidates for the same job, okay? And all the resumes are look the same, they're all fantastic, everybody's great, everybody's qualified, and I can't decide, right? But I know that all you guys are social media. Okay? I go to your social media page and I go to your Facebook and I see you have Facebook and your Facebook friends are, I don't know, criminals. Well, guess what? I'm not gonna hire you. You know why? Because in my mind,
You have that mindset of like thinking.
birds of a feather flock together, right? If these are your friends, this is what they do, you're probably doing it too. You probably have some propensity to do the same thing. Okay? This is why social media became a big tool for HR. Because a lot of people get fired or hired based on their social media pages. They will go, right, and HR will go, and it was legal, it still is, to go to someone's social media page and look and see what they're doing, because social media is public consumption. Right, I can go to anybody's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, as long as I'm a member myself. When I sign up, I can look at any one of your pages, unless it's private, right? I may not be able to, let's say, post anything. I may not be able to see everything unless you invite me, but at the same time, there are, those social media sites where they're public, right? Facebook is pretty public, I can see what's going on Facebook, so is Twitter for the most part, right? Snapchat, now you have to get invited to some of these things, but at the end of the day, I can see what you're doing, okay? And so social media has been a big deal as far as with HR and helping, kind of filter out people from jobs, okay? Even if you're working for me right now, if there's something on your Facebook page that, I don't know, if you were a parent complains, right? So there's a particular situation that's going on, I'm sure it's gonna go to court, if it hasn't gone to court already. Everybody's heard of OnlyFans, right? OnlyFans? No one's ever heard of OnlyFans? OnlyFans. OnlyFans.
No.
Okay. So OnlyFans though is a site where you as a private individual can set up your own private kind of viewing space. And people will pay to view you privately. Right? Now a lot of celebrities have it, people that aren't celebrities have it, okay? And so we have one, and this is an example, there's many of them. This lady, she had an OnlyFans page, and on her OnlyFans site, she would dress up in bikinis and dress in, outfits and show them off, and then, whoever wanted to pay the $15 subscription a month could see her try all this stuff on, right? But it's only by subscription, okay? And so one of the parents of the school where her kids went to found out she had an OnlyFans page. And so they kicked her kid out of school. Okay? So of course she went back and said, why did you kick my kid out of school? Well, we found out you had an OnlyFans page and you don't really condone that and da da da. It's like, wait a minute, you don't know what I'm doing on my OnlyFans page. Like this OnlyFans page where people are just sitting there and just doing nothing. It's like a reality show, sort of. It's like having a camera with you 24/7, right? Except that you let the people that you want to let in, and they will pay you to watch. It's like having a camera all day on him, right? He has the camera set up in his room, and they just watch you studying, or watch you sleep, or watch you work, but they pay $10 an hour, $15 subscription, whatever the case may be, right? And so that social media space has changed a lot because now there's different things you have to worry about. Okay? It's from an HR perspective, from a perception perspective, because if you have somebody and they work for you and their social media page is full of discriminatory, derogatory things, they automatically gonna get attached to the company. The perception of the company is gonna change. Right? This is where we go, oh, that person works for you, you haven't fired him yet? What does that say about your company? Right? Oh, you believe in killing people? You believe in genocide? You believe in discrimination, religious discrimination? You believe in, whatever it is, right? You don't like homosexuals, you think that all homosexuals should die, but is that what those views expressed by your employee, are you in agreement or concurrence with those views, right? And if sometimes when you see a show or you see a report, sometimes at the beginning it'll say, the views or opinions expressed here are not those of the broadcasting station or not those of this company. These views are solely the views of the person presenting and are not affiliated with NBC, ABC, HBO, whatever the case may be, right? I'm just here to deliver the story, I'm here to distribute the story, but I don't agree with the person. That's not what we're saying, right? Yeah, well, exactly. We're just providing the person a platform in which to advocate, right? But there's a problem with that because Facebook has an issue with it, right? Twitter, all these people, all these social media sites have an issue with it because everybody gets to express what they want on social media. Is that representative of how Mark Zuckerberg thinks about things? Right? Is that representative of how, Elon Musk thinks about things? No. It's just a platform, right? But you have to make sure that you separate yourself from your constituents, from your employees, all right? And be able to say, look, these are the things you do on social media, and have nothing to do with us, but at the same time, if you work for us, you need to be able to control that. And so you see many people have many sites. They have a lot of social media sites. They have a Facebook that is personal, and they have one that's professional, okay? This is why LinkedIn is very popular and is successful, because LinkedIn is your professional Facebook. That's all it is, all right? And you have your Facebook. Everything on LinkedIn is professional up front. You don't see any advertisements for anything. They take that stuff down, just like that. Okay, the only thing you see advertisements for jobs. Hey, we have a job opening, da, da, da. You don't see anything else. LinkedIn doesn't play all that, all right? But Facebook, different, right? And so HR has the opportunity to look at both of those, but we focus more on LinkedIn because we don't necessarily want to go into people's private lives. Okay, you don't want to jump into that too much, but sometimes you have to. All right, I'm gonna stop there. Any questions? No? All right, make sure you go back and read chapter 14 also, 13, 14 for this week. Okay, to review the chapters. Keep working on your paper. All right, you got this week and next week. Next Sunday, 9:59 is due, so make sure you get that in on time, okay? Take heed to all of the comments I made. Like I said, most everybody was good. Issues were mostly about, making sure you keep the score down as far as plagiarism goes. But again, if you notice that when you look at your paper and it's about, whatever's highlighted as plagiarism or being copied someplace else, if it is the, like words that, if you're not taking the whole paragraph and sticking them in there, okay, you're probably okay. But I'm gonna look at that score, but I like for you to lower it as much as you can, okay? And go from there, all right? Make sure you get your LE done and make sure you get your quiz done, all right? And then for our class here, we do have no final exam? No final exam. No, not this class. No exam. I don't think so.
We should, I think, we can.
And do we? I was confused my other class. I have an undergrad class also that I teach that I can't
I
remember.
think so.
I know they have a final exam. Huh? Week 8 final exam?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember.
This is week 7.
Week 7, yeah, that's next week.
Okay.
We would do in class.
Yeah.
We'll take the exam in class, okay? So prepare yourself for that, but again, it's open resource, so,
It's like a written exam?
no, it's a regular exam.
Okay.
The final exam is a regular exam. Like it's just an exam, it's on the portal.
Like MCQ, like.
It's with multiple, choice, regular questions, yeah. But it's gonna be, a cumulative exam.
Means?
Which means that it's gonna cover stuff from chapter 1 through 8,
Oh.
from chapter weeks 1 through 8. Okay?
We have time.
Yeah, so just be ready for that, but it's open book, open resource, okay? So make sure everything is good with that.
So, we have dates already.
For, yeah, next
Next,
next
so
class.
next time,
Yeah, in class.
so not early, but next week, nothing.
No, they have
Okay,
it.
all right.
Well, you have everything,
But next week we have any or not?
yeah?
We do have-
Really?
We don't have a week 8 week.
There's no week 8
Week
quiz.
8, we don't
No,
have a
yeah,
quiz.
yeah.
No quiz,
You say there was a quiz.
Yeah, you have your LE,
exam.
you have your paper, you have your exam, right? And make sure that with the paper, there's a PowerPoint presentation that goes with that also.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to present your paper,
That's a
okay?
lot, that's a lot, 1 week.
Lot of work, that's why you got,
One week.
that's why you gotta get it done early, right? Stay ahead of the game. All right, anybody on Zoom have any questions? No, we're good? All right, I'll see you guys next week, okay?
See you next week, Professor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, bro.
No problem.
Smart.
Over the final paper and the presentation is due till next Sunday.